Okay, so in this video, I'm going to explain something about a homework video that I give to people. It's Rowan Atkinson live. It's called Welcome to Hell, where he pretends to be the devil, introducing people to the world of hell. Now, I'm not going to show the full version of this video. I'm going to skip through it, but I'll leave a link in the description below if you want to go and watch this video yourself at your own inconvenience. And as I say, I use this as my first introduction video to people because I like my clients to understand what they're getting into. You know, life with me, it's hell. I am not a friendly, happy, clappy teacher. If that's what you want, bugger off to Cambridge English, because I don't do that. So I'm trying a new OBS system here. I'm hoping it's going to work, and I'm not going to cock this up. But theoretically, over here, a little screen's going to appear as soon as I click play. So excuse me if I look like I'm zombified while I'm doing this, but here we go. So theoretically, if I click on this, hey, it's working.
Hello. It's nice to see you all here. Now, as the more perceptive of you probably realized by now, this is hell. And I am the devil. Good evening. But you can call me Toby if you like. We try to keep things informal here, as well as infernal.
So, okay, so he's introducing himself. He is the devil. You know, you've all arrived in hell. Hello, I'm the devil. So I always say it's kind of funny to me that he calls himself Toby, because in English, the name Toby is probably the least scary English name you can think of. Like, if someone said to you, Toby's coming tomorrow to repair the shower in your house, you'd think to yourself, yes, Toby, he's a good guy, he'll get the job done. Toby, good solid name. Whereas if someone said to you, Sebastian's coming, no, sorry, not opening the door. Watch American film and TV. Whenever there's a Sebastian in it, he's always evil. There is no such thing as a nice Sebastian. And funny thing, on one occasion I was doing this with a woman, and she said to me, my husband's called Sebastian. And I was like, well, you see, you know it's true, don't you? And she was like, sometimes. He's all right sometimes. So, you know, if you fuck up, go with it. Just keep going, as the old saying goes. Style it out, or whatever it is the kids say nowadays. Anyway, moving on to the next bit.
But for now, I'm going to have to split you up into groups. Will you stop screaming? Thank you. Now, murderers. Murderers, over here, please. Thank you. Looters and pillagers, over here. Thieves, if you could join them. And lawyers. You're in that lot.
Here is the next big laugh. He's dividing everyone into groups, you know, because at the end of the day, even if you're in hell, we have bureaucracy. So he puts looters, pillagers, thieves, and lawyers into one group. It's funny to me because, you know, lawyers are the biggest thieves, without a doubt, you know. It's kind of weird. I have no clients who are lawyers. I've had lots of first meetings with lawyers, but once they get to this question, boom, they disappear. No sense of humour, some people. Now, looters and pillagers, if you put it into Google Translate, it'll oftentimes tell you it's the same word, but it's not. And before anyone starts writing shit in the comments, I'm going to give my simplistic version of the difference between between looters and pillagers. This is not 100% gospel correct, but it just gives you the basic idea. Okay, so don't be bothering to write anything in the comments. Right, so, pillaging. Now, in days of old, we used to have the Vikings. And the Vikings would sail over to England, burn down the villages, rape the women, steal the food, and bugger off home for a party. That is to pillage, okay? It doesn't happen much now. British tourists sometimes do it when they go on holiday, but not as much as they used to. Anyone who lived in Spain during the 1980s knows exactly what I'm talking about. But looting is still an everyday word. So, when there are mass protests in the streets, when some of the people break the windows to the shops to take what they can, they are looters. Or after a natural disaster, when empty houses are stolen from, those people, they are also looters. They're what I call thieves of opportunity. Okay, so looting features in the news pretty much every week. Something is getting looted. And apparently if you're a video game person, Grand Theft Auto features a lot of looting. I don't play video games. Whereas pillaging tends to be used more historically, like on Nat Geo Historian or whatever. They'll say the Roman Empire pillaged its way across Europe. Okay, so that's the basic idea of pillaging. Pillaging will be used mostly historically. Looting is like an everyday thing at present. There is a more deep dive definition of it. This is not exactly 100% gospel, but it's the basic idea. Okay, so don't be writing shit in the comments. I don't care. Make your own YouTube channel if you disagree with me. Anyway, moving on.
Fornicators, if you could step forward. My God, there are a lot of you. Could I split you up into adulterers and the rest? Male adulterers, if you could just form a line in front of that small guillotine in the corner there.
Okay, so this is another joke that a lot of people seem to miss. Outside of the Christian church and Bible, you'll never hear the word fornicator or fornication. So for me, as an unmarried person, despite being this ugly, I've had sex, I am a fornicator. Now, there is another category of fornicator, it's called an adulterer. And that's someone who is married, who's had sex with someone that's not their wife. Okay, or husband, you're an adulterer. And he says, male adulterers go and stand in front of the small guillotine. Now, when I say to people, what's the guillotine going to cut off? Everyone just associates it with the whole French Revolution thing, and they say, well, it's going to cut off their heads. No. They are male adulterers, and it's a small guillotine. It's going to cut off their happy place. So, as I always say to married people, be careful. This is what's waiting for you in hell. I'm going to stick to just fornication. I'll be in the other queue. I'm all right, Jack. Sod the lot of you. Anyway, moving on.
The French, are you here? Okay. If you'd just like to come down here with the Germans, that'd be lovely. I'm sure you'll have plenty to talk about.
Okay, I always enjoy this question when I have a new French or German client, as I completely bugger up diplomatic relations between the UK and France and Germany. The French, are you here? As you heard, is probably the loudest laugh in the whole thing. The thing is, you have to understand this joke from the British perspective, in that the people we generally speaking hate the most is the French, closely followed by the Germans. Because I have a book over here, and it's called, if the camera will focus, 1000 Years of Annoying the French. As you can see, it's quite a weighty tome. And, most people don't realise, but for the last 1000 years, England has been at war more than it's been at peace with France. And like the first two kings of England were actually the kings of France. And one of them thought it was a dirty, smelly, horrible place. Crazy fools don't speak French. Why would I go there? So there's a lot of bad blood between the two countries. And, and he says, go over there with the Germans. I'm sure you'll have plenty to talk about. Because, again, understanding this from the British perspective, World War I, World War II, where Germany literally just walked into France and said, give me your country. So this is why it's funny to us. French and German people, when I always say to them, why is it funny? They totally blank me. They have no idea. And when I say to them, who do the French and Germans hate? They'll nearly always mention another country like Russia or something like. So this is why it's funny to the Brits that the French and the Germans will be put together. As the old saying goes, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. Now, on a little bit of a side note, and this is something I always do, I have a question for you. What does this gesture mean? Now, a lot of people, when I say this, they say it means peace, or it means two, or something like that. But it doesn't. This is peace and victory. This is the English equivalent of this. And I'll give you a super fast history lesson. Many hundreds of years ago, when battles were fought with a thing called a bow and arrow, so the thing that you pull back and ching, let go of, the British invented one called the longbow. And the longbow was as tall as the man that used it. And the arrow that went through the air, the point of it wasn't a triangle like this. It had a very special shape. If a normal bow and arrow could kill someone at, say, 30 meters, the longbow could do it at 100 or even further. And it didn't matter if the other guy had metal armor on. Because of this special tip, that was known as a bobbin, the arrow just poof straight through. It was the nuclear weapon of its day. Anyhow, during the early 1400s, when the UK and the French were having one of their regular disagreements, the two armies met in the north of France in a place called Agincourt. And if I remember to do it, I'll put a Wikipedia link about it. And if you want to waste 3 hours of your life reading about this, carry on. But I'll give you the edited highlights. The two armies were separated by a big open area. On the one side, the French were looking at the British going, it's too far away, they can't do anything. Ugh, mon Dieu, time for lunch. On the other side, the Brits were looking at the French and like, we can hit them from here. So the next day, the British captains, generals, whatever, said, okay, longbow archers, line up. On my command, shoot everything at the French. You don't stop until you're completely out of arrows. And the legend is that day became night, with all the arrows flying through the air, killed all the French apart from 2 or 3 who ran away. When the French High Command heard about this, they said this weapon's so dangerous, it could change history. So any Englishman that you find, young or old, rich or poor, army, civilian, cut off these 2 fingers so that he can't pull back on the bow. Because that bow was not something you could just pick up and go, oh, look at those arrows. It took 10 years to be good with it. So after that, whenever the Brits won a battle against the French, as they were running off over the hills, they would chase after and going, ha 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 ha, fuck you, still got me fingers. And that's where this comes from. Now, the reason I make mention of this is that you'll often see between each other, British people will say 2 T's, 2 folders, 2 something. But they do it with their fingers almost touching and at an angle. They don't do this to each other. Okay? But as a foreign person, and I'm assuming you're a foreign person if you're watching this because this is who this is targeted at, don't do this. And I was explaining this to someone from South America once, and she suddenly went, is that what it means? And I was like, why? And some years ago, she was in London trying to buy tube tickets. So the tube is what the rest of the world would call the metro system. And she was saying to the guy behind the glass, I want 2 to Charing Cross. And she said the guy looked really angry and eventually threw the tickets at her and told her to fuck off elsewhere. And more recently, a German client was telling me he was in a very noisy pub in Dublin in Ireland. And he was saying to the barman, 2 more pints, 2. And the barman walked up to him, got hold of his hand and said, that will get you 2 pints. That will get you a punch in the mouth if you do it to me again. So, if you want to say 2 in England, turn your fingers around, do the German thing, just don't do this. And I do this for the first meeting with all my clients. And it's kind of funny that people forget themselves. And later on they'll say to me, yes, I have 2 cats. I'm like, 2? I thought you only had the 1. And they're like, oh, shit, peace. Yeah, sorry, I forgot. So, yeah, rapid history lesson. Not totally historically accurate, but close enough for you to get the gist, all right? Again, don't bother writing in the comment. I don't care.
Okay. Right, well, are there any questions? Yes. No, I'm afraid we don't have any toilets. If you'd read your Bible, you might have seen that it was damnation without relief. So if you didn't go before you came, then I'm afraid you're not going to enjoy yourself very much. But then I believe that's the idea.
So this is the last big joke about the whole toilets thing. So obviously someone has said to them, you know, where are the toilets? And he says, no, we don't have any toilets. It's damnation without relief. So in the English version of the Bible, it does literally say that, damnation without relief. What this literally means in the Bible is, for your terrible existence on earth, where you are a naughty boy or girl, you will go to hell. You're in hell, you're in damnation. And it will never end. It is for all eternity. There is no end, there is no relief. When we talk about relief, we talk about like the end of suffering, the end of pain. If you buy like paracetamol or, oh God, what's the other one? Aspirin. Oftentimes on the packet it will say something like fast pain relief, end of suffering. And that's what it means, you know, there is no relief, there is no end. But also we have the expression to go and relieve yourself, which is to go to the toilet. So he's flipping the meaning of the word relief here. Not damnation never ending, but damnation with no toilets. So if you take nothing else away from this video, remember this. Before you die, go to the toilet just in case. You don't want to spend the rest of eternity walking around with a full bladder obsessing about needing to go to the toilet. Just saying. I always say to my clients, I'm not just an English teacher. I'm like a spiritualist guru, life coach, oracle. I really should charge my clients triple for the information that they get out of it, So, yes. So that is Rowan Atkinson. And it's Welcome to Hell. And I use this video, as I say, as an introduction to me, so people understand what they're getting into. I hope that this has helped in some way, and that you've picked up a few cultural references and a bit of English humour. Seeing as the last video that I did where I was explaining English jokes, someone decided to tell me that I didn't know what I was doing. So if that's still your opinion, that I don't know what I'm doing, well, feel free to start your own YouTube channel and show me how it's done.